So that's kind of how I got into beatboxing, was because I was a sponge. I was also a skater kid, so every time I was filming my friends, it was always like just simple, not knowing that that was beatboxing. I would just did it naturally.
This podcast is all about you guys and your journey in music. We'll talk about what you guys got going on with the private language and how you got to where you are now.
Awesome, beautiful.
Cool. Are you your brothers, correct? Or no?
No, we have been playing music for almost 20 years together, and we get recognized
as brothers.
Okay, yeah, because I read about you and it was like two brothers. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, brothers from another mother. Yeah,
but not blood, not blood brothers.
Not blood. We grew up in the same town, and we both went to different high schools. And I heard about Kevin on the Seattle music scene for like 2 years. He heard about me, and we just never linked. And then all of a sudden, around 2001, maybe 2002, beginning something like that, we linked, and then we just started playing music together all the time.
Cool. Well, so you said Seattle?
Yeah.
Are you both from the Seattle area?
Yeah, we're North Seattle, top of Lake Washington, Kenmore, Bothell area.
Born and raised?
If you know that. Born and bred, yeah.
Okay. Well, Blake,
we're in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah.
You're in Las Vegas now. Did you move there?
Yep, we both moved here.
Yeah.
Rad. And then you have your own studio there.
Yep, he has his, I have mine. And we all share gear, you know.
That's rad. And you got some gold records behind you as well.
Yeah, I got this one over here is I had a #1 on Billboard for me called Heartbreak on Vinyl. 311, homies of mine. Alex Clare, Too Close.
Oh, no way.
I actually got that in the Microsoft ad that made it blow up. So he sent me that plaque, which was cool.
Oh, that's dope.
Kevin has #1s with the band Pendulum.
Okay.
Yeah, platinum records and
producer, or did you guys write on the records, or
co-producer? Yep. Yeah. And my main role in Pendulum is drummer, and also we all write the songs as well.
That's rad. Yeah, mine is from the radio. I was the first guy to play the struts on the air, and
nice.
The record
tastemaker.
Kind of.
What station were you at?
91X in San Diego is the one I got that for, but I was also in San Francisco at Live 105.
Dope. And pardon me for asking, what's your name?
Adam. Sorry, should have told you guys that in the beginning.
Yeah. Good to meet you, Adam.
Nice to meet you as well. Okay, so we'll back up here. So Blake, tell me, how did you get into music?
My mom was a hippie rocker her whole life, and she had me. And I started singing when I was 5. I was into 80s pop, new wave, MJ, Prince, Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, New Order, anything with synths, really. And just good hooks, basically.
Okay.
And my dad was into like classic rock, but my mom played like blues, bluegrass, and rock. So finger picking type stuff. So 3-part harmony as well in bluegrass. So I kind of fell in love with harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Any band that had like 3-part harmony, and then my dad would listen to the Eagles, and they were in like 5-part harmony, on some songs like that. So I grew up listening to that, and then I fell in love with everything in the 90s. I got exposed to drum
everything
and bass,
being there in Seattle too, right?
Yeah, industrial music and then the pop of those days too, and R&B and house music and my love for singing just blossomed. I was in like professional choirs and theater, and did all the things. Anything I could do, I did. And I guess that was like growing up. And and as soon as I got out of high school, I found beatboxing. I'm a professional beatboxer. Champion.
Really?
Yeah. And
wow.
I did tons of I was annoying. I was just an annoying kid until I found beatboxing.
How did you realize that you had that skill?
I saw an a cappella group, and this beatboxer just blew my mind. And it's kind of crazy. It was the first week South Park aired.
Really?
And all the voices, dude, you're such a bastard, like that.
Are you a voiceover actor as well?
I am. Yeah.
Do you really? That's
I've
awesome.
done anime and video games and whatnot. Hey, my dog's barking.
It's all good.
So that's kind of how I got into beatboxing, was because I was a sponge. I was also a skater kid, so every time I was filming my friends, it was always like just simple, not knowing that was beatboxing. I would just did it naturally. And then I saw this cat in this acapella group, and he just kind of just changed my life. Right in the moment I saw them, I was like, wait, you make money making noise with your mouth? Like, that's insane. I mean, I'd been singing. I'd already toured to Europe and London at 13, and
wow,
with these choir
groups.
And we got 4th best youth choir in the world, and I had a solo. So I was just like, oh crap, this is obtainable. And even at an early age, I just was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to keep visiting. I just like met some cute girls at 13, just super stoked in London, like, accents, and like, I was like, okay, music brought me here. So
that's dope.
So out of high school, I got in actually an acapella group, a hip hop group. I had a #1 in Seattle with a hook I wrote, which Twista got on that song. So it was all random to me. It was just fun. You know what I mean? Music was just pure fun. I didn't even care if I got paid then. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, I'm like, dang, I should got paid. But
right.
Back then it was. I mean, the grind's now. It's still fun every day making beats.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. I'll shorten it. Like, we met in 2002, and at that point, I had an acapella group. I was hosting massive raves, like 4,000 people raves in Seattle. I was in a hip hop group, and then I started my own one-man band, loop beatbox, kind of amalgamation of hip hop, electronic music, and acapella. And that's when Kevin and I met, and I was like, who the fuck is this badass? I had heard his name for like 2 years on the scene, because he's just he was already a legend in Seattle, basically. Just is one of the premier drummers, and like he was a one-man show himself. He was playing keys while he's drumming and samples, and craziness. And
okay, do you play an instrument? I'm sure you do. Do you?
I play. I play anything I can touch.
But when did you? What was the first one you learned? Piano or anything like that?
Piano, yeah. I took lessons for like 6 years piano when I was a kid, probably from 11. Actually, it might have been younger. Probably like 10 to like 16. I took lessons, and then I just picked up the guitar because everyone was playing guitar, and my mom played guitar, and I learned some like finger picking patterns from her, and just more tools. And then I always wanted a drum set, never got one. And then my parents bought me just like a little amp and a microphone, and that's when I started beatboxing.
Rad.
And then flash forward in 2000, end of 2001, I think, is when we met. I feel like it was like that winter. And then we started having our own shows at a place called Toast in Fremont, where we had everyone come in, all the best players. It was a weekly that we had for quite a long time. I feel like it was almost a year, but it was almost 20 years ago. But we had like Reggie Watts, all the like the badass of Seattle, and just amazing bass players, MCs, DJs, and it was a fun little club. I mean, it only holded like maybe 200 people or something.
Wow.
Super fun spot in Fremont in Seattle. And then we just played music since then. We haven't stopped playing music. I ended up randomly auditioning for American Idol, went through that whole process, got second on that show.
Wait, what? Just no big deal. Got second on the show. That's crazy. Tell me about that a little bit.
I mean, that's like a can of worms. It was surreal. My friend drugged me to the show. I'd never wanted to be on that show. I never saw it. I had no interest, but my friend begged me to like stand in line with him. And then I just kept going through, kept making it. And then when I ended up getting to Hollywood Week, I was like, oh, this shit's real. Like, the universe is putting me here. God, whatever. I manifested it maybe when I was 20, because when I was 20, I was like, by 25, something big's gonna happen. I didn't know what it was. I was just putting it out there, and that was it. And I drugged this guy along for the on the ride. He made him my music director, and after American Idol, we toured. He played on my album, my first album, which was on RCA with Clive Davis and Ryan Tedder of OneRepublic, and I almost wrote the whole thing together. And you know, the rest is history. I've been touring and playing I mean, I've been doing it for over 20 years now, but that was like, you know, a pivotal moment far as really getting to become a cog in the machine and really figure out what radio's like, and interviews and you know, all the years I had on stage paid off by, you know, coming on that show and you know, being me. I looked at it as a remix competition. I was the first contestant ever to rearrange his music and do it himself. And
it's funny, like I didn't even put the two together, but then like when you said that, like I totally remember watching on American Idol.
Oh, right on.
Like it didn't even click to me until you said that. I'm like, wait, oh my God, yeah, he was on that show.
Yeah, it was 14 years ago. So
wow. What was real quick on that subject before we get to you, KJ? But I'm just curious, like how pissed was your friend that he drug you to this thing and then you get second?
Oh man, it was crazy because he was kind of pissed because he had to wait there all day because I showed up last. I mean, I guess they were there for a week in Seattle, and I didn't know that. I thought they had already left town, and I guess they set up for a week and they let people sign up for a week. I didn't understand it because I was just like, whatever. But he's like, you got to go to Key Arena and sign up right now. And so I did. And then in 5 a.m. he picked me up because he had to wait in line for like 4 hours in the pouring rain. It was like the worst cliche Seattle weather like ever. And we were just soaked. And then you go inside and then they make you wait for another hour and they make the whole like stadium sing like, we built this city. It was so lame. It was like the lamest thing. And I wouldn't stand. And like one of the like people like, stand up. And I was like, nah, dog. But it was it was lame. I'm not a very I'm not a cheerleader, you know, enthusiastic. I don't know. It was something about it. I was just like, whatever. I was there to like keep him company, you know. Yeah. But then they're like, well, we're gonna do this different. We're gonna start with whoever auditioned last. So I was in and out of there. They're like, rows, blah 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 blah, or if your ticket number is this, come on down. And you know, 30 seconds, they just look and see what you look like. The initial like cattle call audition was just, it was kind of laughable. Yeah, just because, like,
are you marketable?
If I mean, not, there's so many steps to get on the show. So it's exactly. It's that. It's like, do you have a relative good voice? I mean, because back then American Idol was like, they were like making fun of people too. They were like, you know, there was it hurt my heart because like I grew up, my mom's like a special ed teacher, so you know they're bringing people on, you know, on the show that have like Down syndrome.
Yeah, my mom is a special ed teacher as well.
Oh, right on. That's amazing. So you know, I kind of already had this like bad taste in my mouth just from, because soon as he said like watch it, I went on YouTube and I like saw a couple clips and stuff because I'd honestly never seen the show ever, not even like a clip of it. So I was like, what am I getting myself into?
Right.
But anyway, long story long, I got in and out of there in like, as soon as they started going through people, I was in and out like within a half hour, and he had to stay there for 12 days just to get it, or 12 hours to get
12 days.
Yeah, that would suck.
Just to get up there, and did he just get booted right away?
Yeah, so he was stoked for me, but he was crushed a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Of course. I talked to David Cook, and he was telling me that I think his brother dragged him along, and then he obviously won the whole thing, but it was like a similar situation where he didn't even want to go or didn't really care or didn't really know what was going on, and then like his brother's like, just come try, and then he like wins.
I mean, that's the special you know, part of American Idol. Like you never know.
That's funny.
But yeah, after that, you know, KJ and I have just been rocking.
Yeah. Well, KJ, so tell me your story a little bit. Yeah. Born and raised in Seattle area as well. How did you get into music?
Born and raised in Seattle. Got a pretty early start, like Blake, with music, playing drums, and was in rock bands and funk bands inspired by like Primus and Metallica and Rush and things.
Mm-hmm.
I heard drum and bass around 18, and it totally changed everything for me. Never heard really electronic music at all.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Blake, who got started so early. And I like boycotted guitar music for like quite a long time. I just wanted to
Interesting.
hear electronic music. That was it.
Well, what got you into drums, real quick? Like, why did you choose to play drums?
My brother got a guitar, and I was like, well, I want to play music too.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, my mom and dad said I always used to bang on things with forks and knives and stuff as a kid. I don't really remember that, but my uncle had a drum set with like 2 bass drums inside his closet, and I bought that with my paper route money.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just started beating those things, and then I got lessons like at least a few years later, but kind of a natural start. I didn't think I had any sort of, gift or anything. And my mom was a singer, but she didn't do it professionally or anything.
I didn't know that.
Just as yeah.
Mhm.
Well, her dad, she got pretty much just, didn't get any support or anything from her family. So that kind of shut it down quite quick. But there's not very many musicians in my family at all. So I'm pretty much one of the only ones.
That's crazy because
I guess my
your
grandpa
brother can shred. So.
My brother's a great guitar player.
Really?
I guess my grandpa, I guess my grandpa sang songs and was kind of a singer, but he was a carpenter. I have a very blue collar family. Everyone's plumbers and electricians, and
But he didn't want to. Was he your mom's dad? The
my
singer?
dad's dad.
Oh, okay. I was curious.
Yeah, both of my grandpas were. I don't know. They were just very angry, sexist men.
Okay.
And it was hard times back then.
Yeah.
So I came out as a musician, and but it was tough. It was almost until I was 30 before I finally became a professional musician. Joining Blake on American Idol really helped like solidify the fact that we can not do our day jobs and things like that. So, and then shortly after that, I joined Pendulum, and we were on the headline in the biggest stages across the world.
Sure.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you got that call.
Yeah, everything changed then. Yeah.
You're like, hey, your favorite band wants you to be the drummer.
My favorite band, yeah. And he's like,
oh, there you were a huge fan too.
Well, we were also like flirting online about collaboration and stuff. It was MySpace days, and Rob and I, the main guy from Pendulum, we're emailing back and forth on MySpace, and I was sending him over beats and things. And then there was just a nice little break in between touring, where there was kind of a breakup with their previous drummer, and they wanted me for quite some time.
Wow.
And they were like fans of me, and I was fans of them, and it was kind of the perfect like rock meets drum and bass, great melodies. I'm like, that's the type of music that I love. This type of music that I want to make. That's the type of music I want to jam with on main stages. My slogan was always drum and bass for the main stage, because that never happened. Drum and bass was never on the main stage. It was on the side stage. House music and stuff was on the main stage, and we got on the main stage playing freaking drum and bass.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Wow. Okay.
I mean, no one else has really done it.
No.
Do you feel like
there's some?
I was curious if because your mom, her parents probably weren't very big advocates of her becoming a musician. Like, do you feel like she was a big supporter of you because of that, or allowed you to kind of play music because of that?
Thankfully, she was my biggest supporter. Yeah, she'd let me play drums however long. Piss off the neighbors, didn't matter. She's like, oh well, he's not out doing drugs and getting in trouble with his friends. I know exactly where he's at. So that was the biggest thing, is she felt safe. She felt that I was safe with my music and drums, because I was just locked in the studio. All I did was play drums.
Super supportive.
Super supportive of
we
that.
both have
cool.
Amazing supportive family.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's probably
which I wish every musician had, because it's
that's
that
huge.
nurture and
Yeah, which a lot of musicians don't have. It's like, that's not a real job. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you need to have like you need to go to college and get to have something to fall back on.
Yeah. I mean, everybody still says that and thinks that, and being an artist, I consider being a musician just an artist, whether you're a painter, writer, um, photographer. It's kind of all the similar stuff. You got to grind yourself. There's not really a company that you can go join and get a salary for being a musician, or
unless you play classical and you're part of a union,
which
there's
is
not really
crazy
much for
hard.
just drummers or singers. Or,
Yeah, if you get on
there's
like
no pension or
right
401k for us, really.
Yeah, and then being like a violin player or something like that. I know a violin player in the Seattle Symphony. It's like being a pro athlete. Like, you have to be the absolute best of the best to be able to get that position.
Mhm.
And he's in the lineage too. I can't speak. So his father was a violin player and his grandfather was a violin player, and that
Wow.
really helped.
I passed this violin down.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But he says it kind of sucks though at the same time, because he's like, well, I was just like, it was just, that's what I'm going to do. That's what you're going to do, son. And whether or not he
I
wanted to do
this
it or not.
gift upon thee.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will learn this violin.
No supper for you.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it was hardcore. Yeah.
No supper.
Practice
for
your
you.
scales now.
No.
Yeah.
9.
Like Whiplash. Yeah. That's not my tempo.
Oh wow. Okay, so you picked up drums. Did you say you played with your brother? Because he was a guitar player? Or, yeah, okay.
Yep. We played a lot together in our jam shack. My dad was a carpenter, and then he taught me carpentry, and my brother as well. We built this shed, and that was our jam spot. We jammed there for years and years and years, as loud as we possibly could play, and no one really cared. That's one thing about playing drums too. A lot of people give up drums because it's such a loud instrument. And if
Mhm.
you're in an apartment or even a house that's close to another house, you're gonna really annoy people quickly.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have a 5-year-old who was just losing his mind like during the pandemic, like, with energy. So we got him an electric drum kit, which is so awesome now that they have these things, because he just puts on headphones and it's like, you just hear the pad hitting, which isn't too annoying.
that's perfect.
But yeah, I haven't got him lessons yet, but that's kind of the next thing. But I mean, when I was growing up, they didn't have that either. So it was like, if you played drums, like, you knew you're gonna irritate the whole neighborhood.
How old's your son?
5.
Oh man, get him some lessons for sure. Yeah, create a little bit of structure around that instrument.
Mhm.
Even if it's just like playtime with the teacher. Sometimes the kids are so young that it's just like a little playtime with walls, you know?
Right.
But that does create structure at a young age. I would encourage that.
Yeah, we just moved to Nashville. That's why you can see all the stuff in my room here. But we
Cool.
haven't unloaded. Like, we're moving into a house right now. We're currently in an apartment. But anyway,
Congrats.
his kit. Thank you. His kit is in the pod thing. So once it gets out, that's when we're gonna get him some lessons. That's the plan, at least.
Right. Yeah, kids got lots of energy. For me, growing up, it was drumming and martial arts, and that totally kept me out of trouble. And
Mhm.
my friends would like jump in a car and drink and smoke weed and go hit mailboxes with freaking baseball bats. I'm like,
There
no
you go.
thanks. I'm not gonna do that. They're fine now. That's
It wasn't until later that
typical
he
kid stuff.
found the baseball bat.
Yeah. And then in my 30s, I started smoking weed and drinking and knocking on baseball bats on neighbors' yards.
See, I hung out with those kids. I was like a little hellion for like a year, and then I was like, I don't like these kids. My parents didn't like them either, which is good.
Worked out.
Oh yeah, I caused some mischief. I was like, I'm gonna go to juvie. Like, I was a little shit.
But you didn't. You got out free.
I did.
You escaped.
It was like a year of troublemaking, and then my peaced
You
out.
got it out of you.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
well,
music saves people.
yeah,
you know?
no,
I became a
totally.
choir boy. Yeah.
Well, when did you guys? You said you met 2001.
Yeah,
And
2001, 2002. I don't know the date, but we actually the first time we jammed, we recorded it. And
really,
it was when you were DJ Sawka instead of KJ Sawka.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
So yeah, we have our first jam recorded, which is pretty sweet.
that
And a
is
bunch of
dope.
them. Like I remember,
Do you
like
have that still?
I have so many mini disc things. Yeah,
Amazing.
that for. I used to love being the mini disc guy. Every show I record. So I got a lot of stuff from back then.
That's
Nice.
cool.
Nice.
That
It
is really
goes.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
was that before Blake? Before you were on American Idol? Did you guys?
Oh
were
yeah, this
hanging
was
out.
like
10 years before.
No,
almost.
Oh wow, I don't know.
no,
When
it
did?
was like 5 years.
Right.
American Idol was 2007. Oh, so it was like
yeah.
6 years before.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then so KJ, you joined him on. I'm
Yeah.
confused on
He,
the
did, he
American
joined
Idol
me
thing.
after I was off the show and I toured. My
Oh.
first album came out through
Yeah.
Okay,
Ariston
now
and-
it makes sense. Okay, so you jumped on the tour with Blake as his
Yeah.
drummer.
Well, Blake was like,
yeah, music director, drummer.
I saw Blake coming up and I saw him on TV and he called me. I'm like, he's like, dude, I don't even know what's happening. I'm like, dude, I see what's happening. I go, all you need to do is practice your freaking butt off in the hotel room. That's it. Just sing all day long. Don't blow your voice out, but make sure it's perfect. That's it. Like that's all you got to do is not mess up. No pressure. Because I never saw American Idol before either.
Mhm.
Like I'm not a TV watcher and had no idea what this show was. And then all of a sudden he was on primetime TV.
Yeah,
just
the
turn it
biggest
on.
show like on the planet. I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
back
dinner
then.
all the
time.
time.
Like dinner time. I'm like, oh my god, my
Insane.
homie is on TV. This is crazy. And then so after he won and did a bunch of shows and things like that, he's like, I need a band. I'm like, I got you. So I formed a band with all our homies, really, really great musicians, and learned all the songs. Went to LA, rehearsed them, and then went on tour. And Yeah.
Our first gig was with Ludacris.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
they said that
Wow.
they said that it was the first contestant band on American Idol, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, because
Um,
we ended up playing the show.
We played American Idol. Yeah.
Like
Was it after? Or before? It was like a year after, wasn't it?
it was the next season. It was David.
next
Cook.
season.
Yeah, we ended up playing.
Yeah,
that.
they usually usually have the other guys,
Yeah.
come back on. So you got to
Yeah.
play it as a band.
As a band.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, but
Yeah.
then slowly, like right after that, I got dropped from that label, and I just made them like $3 million.
Oh my god.
2008, like the economy crash. The
Oh, sure, that was
labels,
the-
all radio DJs were getting like turned
Trust
into
me.
like
That's when I was in radio.
computers and,
Wow.
It was a
dark-
fantastic time for me getting into radio around that same time.
Man,
You know,
2008 was just
about-
like the worst
yeah.
year. I was like, I just had the best year of my life on the show. I was like enamored by, and I had like, seriously, I tell everyone, I was like, I think I'm the one contestant who had the greatest time being on that show ever. Because I was also
Why
the
is
first-
that?
Because I love production, and
Okay.
I was the first person to like talk to like the monitor guy and the lighting girl and the I like micromanage every performance. So I would talk to the director and I'd be like, I would like to be shot when I say this word this way. You know what I mean? I learned from the
Yeah.
greats like Prince and Michael Jackson and Madonna and all I do is watch music documentaries pretty much every day. I've seen like every music documentary from the dawn of time. Like
That's
there's
right.
an amazing YouTube playlist that has like 400 music documentaries in it, and I seriously have seen like bands I've never heard of, and I'll know everything about them by the
That's
end
so
of the day.
cool.
But so when I as a performer, I want to know every aspect, and especially on that show, we had 14 cameras. So I'm like,
Oh my god.
I had to talk to those cameramen, and they were like, in 6 years, no, you're the only person that has ever talked to me. You're the only
Wow.
contestant
And
that has
they
ever
Well,
loved
it's
talked-
probably because everyone else is
loved
probably
it.
just so like wrapped up in like, okay, like practicing, like trying to,
Yeah,
and you're like,
and
no, I
media-
want to get this, but that makes more sense, right? I mean, it's all about the visual.
Well,
Performance.
Yeah.
I believe in like kinetic energy and what you give to someone, they'll hopefully give back to you. And so
Mhm.
I'm not just going to show up to the most amazing experience of my life and not like ask questions and like, can I
Right.
do this? I butted heads with the main producer all the time because of that. And we had like shouting matches, and he'd storm out of the room, and then he'd apologize to me because I was the first person, and I also picked all my songs. And they're like they you know, it's the biggest show on television. They want you to
Yeah.
do what they want you to do,
Sure.
even though quote unquote it's a competition. You know what I mean? But they'll manipulate you. Like they're like, we think you should do this song. You know?
Right.
I was like, that's a great idea, but no. You know, I would say it with respect, but I would just be like,
Yeah.
no, I know who I am. I'm
Er,
coming out of the gate. I sang like my 3 favorite bands at the time that would represent my voice and my stylings. You know,
Mm.
Which were what? Did you sing a Prince song?
it was Jamiroquai 311 and Keen.
Oh, rad. Keen. Wow. I didn't realize you did a Keen song. That's pretty dope.
That was the first song I ever sang on American Idol. I was the only person to do a ballad, and I sat down and I didn't move, and all the producers wanted me to do was beatbox. I was like, no, I'm not here to beatbox. Like,
I'm here to
you're gonna
sing
turn it
Keen.
into a gimmick. And in the beatbox community, they all thought I was like a gimmicky dude. You know what I mean? And that's
Mm.
what I didn't want to happen. So I got like hated on by like my artistic community. You know, people are like, "Oh, beatboxing." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Like, beatboxing is some of the most amazing thing on the
Mhm.
planet. Like, it's an amazing, beautiful art form, and here you are turning it into like
A joke,
know,
kind of.
corporate, like
Yeah.
you know,
Reality.
capitalizing on an art form. So I was like, no, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to do it. And anytime I did it, they showed it like 30 times. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
It was
That was
just the
the
click.
highlight.
And then it was just me never singing on stage. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I had a love-hate relationship and because it's such a double-edged sword coming on that show and then getting off it. Because in Seattle, I was doing all these really cool events, festivals and stuff. And as soon as I got off American Idol, they wouldn't fuck with me at all. You know what I mean?
Oh, because you had kind of like a stigma at that point now, like, oh,
Yeah,
you're American Idol
TV
guy.
has a stigma thing, you know what I mean? So that was like I had a real interesting time on that show, you know. And then at the finale was crap, but it's more a can of worms. I can talk about that show for a million years, and I would never be done because so many amazing things happened on it. And then the last
Right.
week was like the worst week of my life being on that show, so it was
Oh,
so weird.
man.
It's like, you know?
Dude, that's what happens on reality TV shows.
Yeah,
People get burned.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And people are like, you know, I had like PTSD from being on television and that kind of fake fame. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
People, especially it's like a political show too, because they're voting for you. It was so strange. I was like, I felt like a robot. I was like,
Yeah.
you know, every interview is saying the same thing. And
It's
like,
manufactured.
it's so,
Yeah.
it just really turned me into, by the end of the show, I felt like I wasn't me anymore. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Even though I had represented myself like true to form, 100%, like going through it. But like the last week was just so stressful. And then they wouldn't let me be me at the finale. So it was weird.
Yeah, I can imagine
the most
that.
amazing weird experience of my life.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I can imagine that it gets, like you said, pretty political when it comes down to who's gonna win. I would imagine, like, how real are the votes?
I mean, yeah,
Like, I mean,
Ford, Coca-Cola, AT&T. Like we were doing like $1 million commercials every week for Ford. It was like the opportunities and everything that came from it has been fantastic. But there's always a dark side, you know. There's always that other side of the coin, you know.
right.
And you know, I didn't take that experience for granted at all. I soaked up every information, every single person I met. I got their info. Like
Mhm.
I talked to I talked to Quincy Jones for an hour and a half. I talked to Bono for like a half hour, just personally, and all the other contestants are there because I had no fear. They were like scared to talk to these people, and I went right up to them and I was like, "Yo, what's up? I'm
Yeah.
Blake. I've done this," and like, you know, every single person. Jennifer Lopez, she was like, "You're awesome. Keep doing it." You know, like all these, like, it was just so crazy. It was so nuts, man.
That's so crazy. That's so cool. And then, okay, so then you guys link up after you're off after the show finished and you're on a tour.
Yeah.
Is that the first time you guys, you said you played together and had this recording? Was that prior to this all happening?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Mm.
he and I played for like 5 years before American Idol. Yeah, 5 years strong. In different amalgamations, improv freestyle nights. We never had a band, but because we just kind of do our thing. I've always been an improv guy. Throw a little bit of comedy in there, do like a one-man show with him is awesome. We're both like looping drums at the same time. It's a very percussive show, and nobody was doing that at that time. You know what I mean? Especially in Seattle. I mean, Seattle's a small place with tons of amazing music.
Sure.
But it was cool. Like I went by B Shorty, and that was like my hip hop name and rave name. You know what I mean? For a long time, and then as soon as I got on American Idol, that changed. But I went on tour with American Idol. You know, the band, and we did our 60 date tour, like almost 50 states. I think we did 48 states or something like that.
Wow.
Which was amazing. And then I was recording my album with Ryan Tedder and Sam Hollander at the same time.
That must have been pretty amazing to work with him. I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, Ryan and Sam they're G's in their own right individually, you know, and also Mike Alexando and so I worked with some amazing producers, and I actually got to co-produce my album, which no contestant had ever done, you know, because that was because Ryan Tedder and Sam Hollander believed in my creative vision, and they saw that I did have skills as a songwriter. So, you know, I give them major props for letting me be me on my first album, because a lot of people going through that machine, you know, they're just a pawn, and they're just along for the ride, and they're stoked. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Wow.
So, I mean, some of those people, you know, singers on that show are just, they don't have a creative bone. They're just love singing. You know what I mean? Then they've done karaoke their whole life, and they end up on a show like that, like The Voice or American Idol and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a good portion of the people aren't actual like songwriters. They're probably just, musicians.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not like a prolific lyricist or anything, but I can write a song, you know?
Yeah.
It takes me a lot longer than most people, unless I'm like super inspired, and in a good collaborative sense with Sam and Ryan. It was easy. It was like, we'd write songs in like 40 minutes. I was like, yes, this is amazing. Let's go. Let's pump them out. Like, let's keep being creative, and watching Tedder work, like he can pick up any instrument and play it fantastic. And he's so quick. His mind moves fast. And Sam Hollander is just like the most conceptual songwriter. And, you know, he wrote all Panic at the Disco's last album, you know.
Wow.
And all that. I mean, he's written so many hits. It's insane.
That's crazy.
You know,
I didn't realize that.
Tastemakers and seeing how labels work with them, and what they were doing with publishing and song and all their stuff, and soaking all that up was just like, I still feel like that was a part of the American Idol process, because I was signed to, you know, 19 Entertainment and 19 Recordings, which is all American Idol at the time. That's disbanded now. And then the Clive Davis side, which I couldn't stand, like, at all. Like, people just walked around eggshells around him. They told me to like not say anything to him. Like, I was like, we're all human, you know what I mean? We're all the same. We all live, we breathe, we eat, shit, we die, you know, like, you know, hopefully you have lots of love in your life, and then you die happy. But like, why is it so serious, man? It's music. It's creating, you know?
Yeah. So they were like, don't stay away from him, kind of like,
why does this 80-year-old man who he has success and stuff, gotta love it? He knows nothing about pop music right now. He's like
right.
mid-80s, and everyone just is like saying yes to him. And man, all my experiences with him was terrible. And then he didn't test my song, and he just put it out with like no marketing, and it didn't do well. Then he got dropped from the label, and then they dropped me. And I made them so much money. It was heartbreaking. 2008 sucked. 2007 was amazing. And then I made probably my best album to date, which was right after that. I got signed to Tommy Boy in New York, and I made a dance album, and my song Heartbreak on Vinyl went to #1. And that was born out of like being frustrated with the industry and record stores closing down, because that song is about my favorite record store closing. So, you know, I ended up writing a song out of heartbreak from a label, but also heartbreak in the industry. And then DJs kind of organically played it at the radio. They're like, you know, of course we'll play this. It's about us. So.
Right. Totally. And you put a record out recently, or within the last, about a year and a half ago, right before COVID?
Yeah, I just kind of threw it out there right before the pandemic. And so it's like, great, I don't get to tour it. It's called Wanderlust Unknown. And it was my first album that I produced myself.
Rad.
And then I at that time I was producing 2 other artists, and actually KJ mixed the album. Thank you, KJ. Sounds fantastic. And yeah, so that was a big challenge for me, but also probably like one of the funnest experience ever. Just you know, and now we're deep into the private language, which we haven't even talked about yet.
Yeah, I know. So I was going to ask you about that. So when did the private language start? Like, obviously you guys have been working together for, you said 20 years.
Well, we ended up living together after around in 2008. I got a house. Kevin and his now wife moved in, and we made a lot of music together that never came out, and it was all Seattle artists. I was like, I had this big dream of like doing like a compilation of all original music with a bunch of dope vocalists, where he and I would just be the producers, and I would play and I wouldn't sing on the album, except maybe like backgrounds or something. Maybe I would be one song on the album, and that was called Orchestral Drive-By. And it was kind of the same concept, like masks. Like we would be in masks, except for like the lead singer. You know, I was really big into the Gorillas, and I mean like Bowie and any kind of conceptual theatric vibe on stage. I've always wanted to do something like that because I'm a theater kid at heart, and just also taking away perception, and having anonymity on stage is kind of interesting to me. I mean, but I didn't want to be dead mouse or like have like a big marshmallow on my head. You know, I wanted to be sexy still. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And still accessible. Like that's the main thing. Mysterious but accessible. You know. And so we had like 4 or 5 songs for that project we never released, and I wish we did because some of them are really cool. It was the very like on the tips of like little trip hop 07, mixed, you know, with a lot of electronic influence. So that didn't happen. That was 2008. That was almost 12 years ago, you know. And so and at that time, I mean, the end 2009 was Pendulum, right? You got Pendulum gig, and then he moved to London. He was like, he was gone. So I moved to LA.
Aren't those guys from Australia or no?
Yep.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, most of them live in the UK.
Okay.
For a long time now.
Yeah, so I went and visited him and watched him rock with like Avicii, and he opened for Iron Maiden. Like,
jeez, that's
crazy.
That's so rad.
And then I lived with my good buddy DJ Dan in Eagle Rock while I was making Heartbreak on vinyl.
Oh, I used to listen to DJ Dan when I'd skateboard back in like the mid 90s.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, that's a good homie. Like I lived with him for like 10 months to like kind of reset after the Idol thing and tour. In 2008, the crash, I lost my house. I had to short sell. All like the worst of what could happen out of like the best that could happen came to fruition. So I was like, F it, I'm going to LA, starting fresh, which I'm so glad I did. It was a really, humbling experience. And I think I made some of the best music I've ever made in that moment. And then here we are, like 10 years later, we finally got to get together and actually really do this. And man, it's been amazing. He finally moved to LA. I told him for like a decade to get his ass to LA. And then he did. And so when I was making Wanderlust Unknown, I kind of, labels always got pissed at me because I never put myself in a box. They always want to, label you. That's what they're called. They're called labels for a reason. But, put you in a box, like, and sell you, I'm like, yeah, but I'm a producer and I don't believe there's a bad context for anything you want to say when it comes to music. You know what I mean? That's why, there's amazing pop songs that are done in every language and any kind of way. And that's why covers in the last 10 years and a show like American Idol are the biggest things on the planet, So I made Wanderlust Unknown, which is like a little jazzy, little hip hop, and I did it with guitar. And I was like, no synths, no samples on this album. But at the same time, I was making beats that were like challenging myself. I was learning to play slap bass, trying to figure out how to do, because I've never been a soloist on guitar. Like I'm a good rhythm player, but like that's not my jam. So I was like working on that. And then I started making these like really cool kind of tropical trancey-esque kind of beats. And I was like, oh, this could be something. And at that time, my neighbor was an amazing bass player, and he's like, we should form a band. And I was like, Kevin and I have been talking about that for a long time, like getting our stuff together. So Kevin and I ended up making this really hot beat. I was like, oh, this is dope. And then and then my buddy, he was like, oh yeah, I have this title for a band called The Private Language. And I was like, that is fresh. And then he got his girlfriend pregnant. He married her, and he left. And he's like, "Title's yours." And so it's like, "Oh, cool, we got a name, but now we got to like make music for it." You know what I mean? We kind of had the name before there was any real like first song that we finished. You know, I feel.
Yeah, we started making a bunch of music. You know, me moving to LA finally kind of solidified us as okay, let's create this duo project. And yeah, he had kind of these song starts, and kind of like a really cool start of a story that we started really developing, with the look, the aesthetic, and the music, all kind of all tying together. And here we are now with a ton of music. We got over an album's worth of music,
Wow.
and yeah, and we found a home for it, which is so nice. Black Hole has been amazing, and they just
Yeah.
love our, our style that's pretty broad and totally different than a lot of the stuff historically on Black Hole. BT has really helped us too. That's how we started. We did a remix for our super homie BT. That was a big step into like, okay, we can actually start releasing this music.
Yeah, and
And
especially through the
finishing the music.
pandemic.
Yeah, it was tough.
It
It
was-
was tough riding through the pandemic.
He was really, really tough. So when he came to LA, it's like, okay, great, let's do this. I had a bunch of ideas. We started creating our own, and then it was like, oh, all right. Then it became like, oh, 2 days a week, and then it became like 3 days a week. Like, oh, we're into this. Like, it's something. Like, we you know, it was very organic, and and that's like all I'm about. You know, is like the hybrid between like mechanical and organic, like synth and his drumming, his programming, like all the drums are his, you know what I mean? And that's what makes it, you know, really unique sounding. And me just in love with like P-funk and new disco and just like funk. I was just like, I want to hear bass lines. And probably living with DJ Dan definitely rubbed off on me, like, you know, 10 years earlier, you know?
Sure.
He's a funky house master. But I always loved that. Just being, you know, man, I've been listening to electronic music for like 20, 25, 26 years or something. You know,
Yeah.
it's just something, you know. But we're not like fully electronic. We're not fully organic. It's like a hybrid, and it's really groovy, and we're so excited for people to hear this stuff. Our first original song is called Cali Girls, and it's coming out next month.
Awesome.
Which we're excited, and it's kind of like the one pop song that we have, I would say. It's like, you know, funk inspired, kind of on that new disco tip, but all like live drum, you know, mixed with funk. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe our song. It's hard to do, you know what I mean? But it just feels good and sounds good, and we're stoked on it. And
I
so
love it.
like it's awesome because we first did, you know, the remix for BT, which was like kind of a liquid drum and bass feel. And so people are like, "Are you a liquid drum and bass band?" No, like we love that. We'll have a couple songs like that maybe on the album. But then we came out with Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I'm a huge Tears for Fears fan.
Same here. I love that song.
Oh man, and you know, we think we did that song justice. Like we changed the rhythm. We you know, I listened to a bunch of, you know, I was like, I have to do this song. It was just in like, I don't know, maybe innate in my character's design from like childhood or something. But I was like, there's something I want to cover this song, and that's not like me. Even though I came from American Idol, I never did covers before I was on that show. I never did karaoke.
Oh, that's
You know,
interesting.
I never really sang other people's music unless I was jamming out to it, you know, in the car or whatever. So my whole life changed because of that. And now I'm like, oh, you know, I'm like, okay, I want to sing all these other songs all the time, and people love it too. But you know, I was a little nervous and excited at the same time releasing something like that, because you get judged. You're like, this isn't as good as the original. I'm like, no shit. Like the originals,
The original.
You know what I mean? It's the original. When we're not trying to be the original, we're just love that song and paying our respect to it.
Sure.
And you know, and that's all you can do when you're doing it a cover. And I learned that immediately after being on American Idol. So
Yeah.
so we were stoked. We're really happy, and the response has been fantastic. Like it's been so positive, which is amazing. Because it's just like I said, there's always some nerves going at that, but now we're like really excited because our first original song is coming out.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Blood,
hear
Sweat,
it.
and Tears.
Because like, yeah. Well, are you guys gonna? I love the gimmick. Or not? I love like the masks and the whole thing. Are you guys gonna be doing shows and bringing that whole thing to life?
Before the pandemic, we had all this planned out for the West Coast. We were gonna do like a weekly in Seattle, a weekly in Vegas, and a weekly in LA. Just because we could, you know what I mean? Because it would be easy, just in those location to do that, to do like a residency and try that for like 3 months and see how we could build. Because you know, we have like 10 songs that are pretty much done, with like, you know, 6 to 10 on the back burner that's about to be done too. So, you know, we're hustling a lot. And yeah, now that the pandemic is, you know, subsided a little bit and vaccinated, and people are, I mean, it's crazy. We moved to Vegas, and it's just nar bobo already out here.
I've heard.
You know, like people are going wild,
going a little wild.
Yeah. Well, so we're excited. We might do like more of a DJ set with him on pads drumming, and maybe me playing the bass and singing. We're trying to figure that out. We actually are in talks with doing like a show with like a really fun staging company and recording some videos, and yeah, we're in talks right now for that. So it's tough when you don't have music out, you know. It's like, you know, we're getting a lot of positive feedback, you know, the numbers are going up on Spotify, and it, you know, we've been doing this for like 20 plus years, but this project is brand new. And I've never had a brand new project before. So it's really fun. It's refreshing. I'm so glad you dig the aesthetic, you know, put a lot of time and energy into like mood boards and like, how are we going to present this? Cause it's different. My voice is format shifted, so it doesn't sound like me. So
interesting.
Hey, it sounds like, so my fans are like, what the F is this? We like it, but it doesn't sound like you. And it's supposed to not sound like me. I'm supposed to be, I was going to come out as like another full character. Like I was like, I'm going to be Laszlo from Planet, you know, Zebnon or something. You know what I mean? But that just doesn't work today. It worked for like Empire of the Sun 10 years ago.
Right.
But, you know, it doesn't work. I mean, you know, and that was some inspo. You know, Duran, like music videos with Empire of the Sun aesthetic, you know, I mean? Like otherworldly, you know, but our whole aesthetic, and I would say ambiguity, just because we want people to love the music, not necessarily like, our live show will be dope, and I hope they love the live show, and that's like important, but it's like that, you know, the mystery, you know, there's no mystery left in music. You know, anyone can look up anything online, any mix, anything anyone's ever said about, or that band has said out loud, is like online and stuff. And that was the kind of the point, is, you know, a little bit of theater, a little bit of mystery. Cause I miss those days where you had to like dig to find your favorite artists' info, you know? So, and algorithms, you know, with music, unfortunately, with my name attached to it, like is weird because it throws me into this like weird category with like Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard.
Sure,
People,
yeah.
like, my music couldn't be more far from theirs, you know.
Right.
So that was also an initial thing in my brain, not Kevin so much, but just me. That's why I was like, I'm gonna change my name and put, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like my fans love what I do. If I'm making a dope song with anybody, hopefully they're going to tune in and maybe it becomes their favorite thing. And I really hope this project, even for Kevin's fans, I mean, you know, like he does some hardcore like dubstep and drum and bass, you know, and you know, we hope they like this side, which is definitely lighter, trancier, vibier, like escapism. Every song is about escapism, especially coming out of a pandemic. It's like, leave your cares behind, like you're on an island somewhere, sipping a margarita or something, smoking some herb, you know, dancing to your favorite tunes, you know, and that's what music does, regardless of being inebriated. You know, music does that for me.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to hear the songs and obviously the live show when that's able to happen. And thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, man.
I do have one more question before I let you go real quick. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, wow. Kevin?
Yeah. I mentor a ton of artists. And the biggest thing is not quitting. And
not giving up.
Yeah. And not putting yourself out there too soon. A lot of people do that. They're like, I made this dope song and I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to get a record deal. And now I need a manager.
Yeah.
Reel it back in and just work on your art. And most artists, you know, have been musicians or been working on their art, songwriters, for 10 years almost before they really start coming out. It's like the iceberg.
Patience.
Yeah.
Is huge. You have to be patient with yourself.
And knowing how to accept a no.
Yeah, how to accept a no. I had this exact conversation with an artist last night whose album was supposed to drop tomorrow, but that they told me that they're actually changing their stage name. And I was like, so have you pulled your album? And they're like, no. And I was like, what are you doing? Pull your album right now. Are you, you know, you have to pull your album. There's no way you're going to go out and say you're this artist when your album that you just released is under a different name. Like no one's going to find it. You know, like there's just there's a lot of, you know, mistakes. I mean, because we made them. I've made them. I've made all the mistakes. So, man, I got
stick to one brand is the concept.
You know, and find your fan
which
base
I don't,
and be good to your.
We don't do. We're starting a brand new project.
Yeah, that's that.
And I mentor people. They're like, oh, I think I'm gonna, you know, I'm trying to do more dubstep rather than drum and bass. I'm gonna go out as a different name. I'm like, no, don't do that. Just make all the music you want to make under the same name. I'm like, I made that mistake, but it's not necessarily a mistake for me. Like drummers are notoriously in all kinds of different bands and have all kinds of different groups. This one's special though. Blake and I have known each other for so long. So
yeah, and it's combining both our elements together. I mean, I would say he's dark, I'm light. You know, we're yin and yang, and I mean. See, I disagree with Kevin on that sentiment. I say do all the things, you know what I mean, but do them properly. Like if you are going to release something, you know, you got to take time with it, and you know, if it's definitely off brand, then like be a different name. But how much time are you going to spend promoting that when your other brand is failing to, you know, it's tough. Bringing it backward.